right outside, so come on in, don't be shy. We've got ghosts and UFOs. Brace yourself, get ready for the show. Don't be afraid of the dark, the fun's about to start. Nightmares or tales will inspire. Oh, tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Have you heard tell of a demon next door? Or maybe a cryptid on the lake shore? There's nothing too strange for us here, so if you're ready, stamp out your fear. Don't be afraid of the dark, the fun's about to start. Nightmares or tales will inspire. Tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Whoa, whoa.
Welcome back, campers, to episode 41 of the Scaredy Campfires. This evening we step into a story where the familiar twists just slightly out of place, enough to make you wonder whether the world ever behaves as predictably as we pretend it does. Tonight's first story comes from a quiet suburban street beside a looming forest. Comes a tale shared by a Reddit user, u/SoWonderGhost, where a house becomes more than just walls and a roof. It's a place where the ordinary, storms, creaking doors, and unsettling feelings slowly twist into something unexplainable. What starts as subtle unease grows into a deep, gnawing certainty that something within these walls was watching, waiting, unwilling to let go. This is a story about the silent pressures that wear on the mind and the invisible weight some homes carry long after their doors are shut. My parents separated 10 years ago when I was still a minor. We sold our house the same year, and oh boy, none of us was mad about it. The funniest part is that my mum and me only talked about it after the house was sold, because we both felt crazy for believing that there was something wrong with the house itself. Now, this isn't the typical we saw ghost story, because we didn't. It started very tame, actually. Of course, the house was built right next to a small forest, but it wasn't exactly in the middle of nowhere. Imagine a small town with a path that leads to the forest, but there are houses built on one side of the path, and the forest starts growing on the other side. During our very first year living there, we already had to deal with all three: fire, water, storm. Our neighbor had left on the grill. One of the trees in his garden caught fire, and the flames reached over into our garden. Luckily, my dad was a night owl and noticed that his garage was burning. Nothing happened to us, and he even managed to save his car. But having to deal with a fire so early certainly left an impression. A few months later, our entire basement got flooded. No, there wasn't a flood. It simply rained very heavily. My parents figured out afterwards how to deal with the rain, but the water was an issue until we sold the house. During a storm towards the end of the year, a tree on our property fell into the roof of our house. Again, nothing happened to us, but at this point my parents were already very much done mentally. The older I got, the more I noticed that my parents changed as well. My dad got depressed and my mom developed paranoia. She was barely able to sleep through the night. The tiniest sound would wake her up and send her over the edge. and I too got paranoid. Both my parents worked full time, so I was usually home alone during the day. Normally, as a teenager, that sounds absolutely fantastic, but I hated it because truth is, I never felt actually alone. When I came home, I would start checking every single room in the house, including my parents' bedroom. Then I would turn on the TV to make sure I wasn't able to hear anything scary. Not that I had ever heard anything scary, but I was so sure that there was someone else with me. To this day, I do not know how to properly explain why I felt what I felt. Usually, I would simply do my thing, and at one point, this eerie feeling started creeping up on me. My heart began beating really fast. I started shaking, and sometimes I would even lock myself up in my room and plan an escape through the window if I ever needed one. Mind you, at that time I wasn't a child anymore. I was 14 or 15. There was one incident that really made me believe in ghosts. We had our regular entrance door, and then there was two more doors. It was a bit weird. Anyways, the second door was the only door that was made out of metal. It was a really heavy door. You needed some force to open it, and it would always make this very distinctive screeching sound. One evening, I was playing some games on my mom's PC in the living room. My dad was on his PC next to me. My mom was asleep. Suddenly, I heard how the metal door opened. I turned to my dad and asked, "Why is mom leaving the house at this time?" My dad was confused. He asked what I meant, and I explained that I had just heard the door opening. My dad went and checked. The door was closed and my mom was sleeping in her bed peacefully. Well, needless to say, I wasn't sleeping peacefully for a few days to come. There were a bunch of other things that happened while we lived there. My mom developed asthma, and when we moved out, we realized that there was mold behind almost every piece of furniture. Our neighbor decided to pass on her own terms, and another neighbor found her. When her husband moved out and another couple moved in, one of their trees crashed into our fence, literally a month after they moved in. We then discovered that the fence was made of asbestos. I could go on and on. After we sold the house, my mom summed it up perfectly. I always felt like this house simply did not want us there. As the story ends, consider the quiet spaces around you. The ones that feel just a little off, the sounds that don't quite fit. Sometimes the haunting isn't about ghosts seen or heard, but the heavy presence that lingers in the corners of a life, shifting the air and shadowing the soul. For those who've walked through homes that resist their staying, the feeling never truly fades, and perhaps that is the most unsettling haunt of all. Our second story is by UIC9244, who recounts a fleeting but unforgettable encounter with something no one expects to exist. It's a glimpse, a flash of something unnatural, part creature, part nightmare, that shakes the foundation of skepticism and leaves behind a lingering question. What hides just beyond the edge of our vision? What stalks the darkness that most choose not to see? Prepare yourself for a tale that blurs the lines between myth and reality, between shadow and substance. My wife and I encountered a very disturbing creature that doesn't exist in Central Florida. We're both extremely skeptical about this kind of thing, but we can't deny we both saw. Sometime after this event, I sent an email to ourselves with as many details as I could recall. Here's the email text. Has anybody come across something like this before? Hey, name, it's me, name. Age 35 at address. I'm writing this to make sure you don't forget that unnatural thing you saw that night, and to confirm it was real, right in front of your car. You and wife were driving home from a get-together at friend's house back in August 2024. It was about 2:30 a.m., very late. By the time you made it back to neighborhood, both you and wife were very tired. As you turn into the entrance after the first couple bends with the overhung trees across from the first house, you saw a figure on the right shoulder of the road. It was visible for less than a second by the time you passed it, almost in your peripheral vision, but enough for you to get a split-second clear view. Wife had a better angle and can confirm any details. The thing I saw was not natural and is seared into my memory. As best as I can describe, it looked like a deer with long, clawed forelegs, standing on fours like a gorilla. Seemed to be about 4 to 5 feet tall in that posture. It was skinless, with exposed red tattered muscle and bone visible all over. Its eye sockets were vacant, and it had sharp canine teeth. We didn't make eye contact, so couldn't tell if it was looking at us or straight ahead. I'm glad for the window tint in the car, since we were about 20 feet away from it. "Did you see that?" I exclaimed to wife as we whipped past, and she affirmed yes. Me stupidly, "Should we stop to check on it?" Wife empathetically, "No, keep driving." We got back to the house, and I'm not sure if it was from being tired or some other external influence, but we dismissed what we saw and fell asleep in bed right away. I had drank mildly several hours earlier and not taken any other substances. Wife did not drink at all. The memory of what happened faded to obscurity almost immediately, and we didn't even think to bring it up to each other. About a month later, my memory was nudged somehow about it while standing in the kitchen, and it came back to the front of my thoughts. I said to wife, "Hey, do you remember that night coming back from friends a few weeks back? Am I just imagining things, or did we see something really weird? Like some kind of animal?" She confirmed it, and we spent an hour reviewing the time leading up to it, what we saw, what it could have been, and why we had almost subconsciously forgotten about it and hand waved the notion of it away. We've done some research on the entity and have narrowed it down to two options. It seemed to be either a Nahual, skinwalker, or a Wendigo. Visually, it appeared to be more similar to Wendigo reference images. However, Wendigos are apparently hostile on sight and likely would have chased us if that's what it was. I'm leaning towards it being a Nahual variant, as they are not necessarily malevolent, dependent on their human anchor. There also isn't a history of violent crime in the area going back some decades, nor any new reported incidents. To wrap things up, I could go on and on about all the ways we tried to rationalize this sighting. Someone in costume, delirium, hallucinations, a deer with mange, some weird hunters killed, displayed, etc. None of them track right. Trust what your eyes saw in your memory. Trust wife's confirmation of it. Both of you saw the exact same creature, verified with each other down to the details. This thing exists. Be careful outside at night. And since this creature exists, it likely to other cryptids out there. What else is actually real, but simply disregarded as old superstition or fireside ghost stories? Are vampires real? Is Bigfoot real? Is the capybara real? Keep an open mind and don't ignore somebody's eyewitness account just because it's crazy. What I saw was impossible, yet I'm not crazy, so that means it is real. To this day, the memory of that night lingers with them. An impossible moment burned into their minds, defying explanation or dismissal. What they saw remains a haunting reminder that some creatures don't just live in stories or shadows, but walk quietly beside us, unseen by most. Whether you believe or doubt, remember this: some encounters leave marks that never fade, and some truths are stranger than fiction. That wraps up episode 41, campers. When the world feels a little off kilter, trust your nerves. They often sense the shift before you do. Until the next fire burns, Stay alert and stay wary.
As the night gets longer and the darkness creeps in, with the eerie silence broken only by whispering wind, come gather round the fire, the flickering flames, and hear the tales of the spooky and the strange. Chill up your back, a shiver up your spine. You'll be haunted by the things that you find. Legends will unfold and stories will be told